Everyone who was close to the door to Xavier's training room suddenly stopped as they heard how it opened. Xavier had been in there for a few days. People were whispering and gossiping, not tearing their eyes away from the opening door. The noisy corridor turned silent as the people slowed down. Under countless people staring, Xavier, dressed in a fresh black robe that he had in his storage ring, walked out. He brushed some of his hair away from his face. Seeing all the people staring, he furrowed his brows and shook his head. Are they so bored that they have to stare at me instead of training? People are weird. Without bothering to stop, Xavier made his way to the staircase that led to the fourth floor. Since he had a green fire crystal card, it should be no problem to go further down. After spending about 7 days on the third floor, Xavier reached the point where he did not gain more benefits. He was surprised by this. The swift training pill and the fire spirit ointment really did speed up his progress when it came to training. Unfortunately, since he got so much stronger in such a short span of time, the sparks of the heavenly flame on the third floor did not help him anymore, and hardly affected him at all. This was why he decided to go further down in the Q training tower. The swift training pill and the fire spirit ointment sped up my progress a lot more than I expected. If things continue this way, perhaps I can become a level 8 Chi Master in the next training session. Excitement overcame Xavier. He sped up his pace as he was searching for the staircase that led further down. He wanted to go to the next floor as soon as possible. He had no time to waste. The people watching him were stunned. Wait, is he going down to the fourth floor? Isn't the fourth floor only accessible for battle spirits? But Xavier's still a Chi Master, isn't he? I think so, but if he wants to go further down, we should not stop him. Remember what he did to Shiro, and how he almost killed Lai if Elder Han hadn't shown up? If he is confident that he can train on the fourth floor, then I don't question him. Besides, he does not act like an ordinary student, does he? There's something different about him. It's kind of weird. The students kept staring at Xavier as he walked through the corridors of the third floor. None of them dared to stop him or question him. Xavier did not care for any of them. Without stopping, he took a few turns, stopping in front of the next instructor he saw. "Excuse me, where's the staircase to the next floor?" he asked. The instructor was bent over a board that had paper on it. He did not look up from it as Xavier approached. "Only students on the rank of a battle spirit and above are allowed on the floors below the third one. From your Q energy, I can tell that you are a Chi Master. Please come back when you reach the level of a battle spirit." Xavier was taken aback. He was about to say something to convince the instructor that he would be fine, when a second instructor appeared. "Wait, what's your name? I think I recognize you. Are you who I think you are?" Xavier turned around and took a polite bow. "My name is Xavier. I'm from the Xiao clan." This made the first instructor look up from his papers. The second instructor smiled. "I thought as much. My colleague saw you a few days ago when you had a, disagreement with Mr. Lai." "Wait, that is Xavier? I'm so sorry, young man. I should have paid more attention to who was approaching me. I do apologize." The first instructor turned to Xavier and took a small bow. Xavier flushed red and rubbed the back of his head. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Look, the third floor is not really doing anything for me anymore, so I really want to go further down. I also have the green fire crystal card." He brushed over his storage ring and showed the green card to the instructors. The second instructor laughed. "Oh, don't worry about that. We received instructions from Elder Han. Of course you'll be allowed to go to the fourth floor. We are sure you'll be strong enough to handle the strength of the flame down there. You're an alchemist after all." "Thank you. How do I go down to the fourth floor?" Xavier asked. "Straight ahead that way, and then the next turn you see to the right. Oh, and before you start training on the fourth floor, you should eat something. That way you can stay longer inside the training room without getting exhausted. I know the body functions slow during the training, but they don't stop completely. If you plan on staying for another few days, you really should consider to eat something." "I'll keep it in mind. Thank you, instructor." Xavier thanked the instructors and made his way down. He was a bit worried as he got there. The students on the fourth floor were amongst the most powerful in the academy. There was no one that was below the level of a battle spirit, save for Xavier. Due to this, he felt very out of place. He tried his best to keep a low profile and not end up getting into another fight. The last thing he needed was another powerful enemy. He really had enough trouble for this year. As he reached the 4th floor, he entered a large hall, where people took breaks to eat something before continuing their training. Although officially it was forbidden to eat something in the tower, most people ignored this rule and had some snacks in the hall. Xavier found a bench, sat down, and brushed over his storage ring. A box that was filled with rice and some beef appeared, as well as a bottle of water. He greedily devoured the food, drank the water, and then went to search for an empty room. Before starting his training, Xavier needed to refine 2 more things. It was not too difficult to find an empty room. The 4th floor was less busy than the 3rd one. From the looks of it, the room Xavier entered was mostly used for storage, but it offered enough space for him and his cauldron. Inside, he heated his cauldron and refined some more swift training pills and some more fire spirit ointment. Since he spent the last week training on the 3rd floor, he used all his swift training pills up and only had a small batch of fire spirit ointment left. Luckily, Master Lao left him enough ingredients in the storage ring to refine a few more batches of the pills and the ointment. This time around, it was much easier to refine them. Since Xavier already had a bit of experience, he knew what to expect with each step during the refinement process. This also made the whole process a lot faster. It only took about 20 minutes to refine the ointment and about 1 hour to refine the pills. Master Lao's voice appeared in Xavier's mind. "Good job, kid. Not only were you a lot faster this time around, but the quality also improved drastically. I'm impressed." "Thank you, Master Lao. I'm glad I've been successful at both attempts. I don't want to waste any ingredients. I think they should last until my next breakthrough, or at least they should, if I don't get interrupted again. I'm so tired of people interrupting me and my plans all the time. If they would only know how busy I am." Master Lao laughed. "Do you really think they care how busy you are? Most people are busy themselves. Even if they would know how busy you are, I don't think they'll stop bothering you. You know how this world works." Xavier sighed and cleaned up his cauldron before storing it inside the storage ring. "I guess you're right. I shouldn't complain. The less I complain, the better I can focus on my training. That's all I can do for now." "That's true. Don't worry too much. You're still young. You'll have plenty of time to take breaks once all of this is done, and then you can complain for as long as you want." Master Lao chuckled. Xavier thought for a moment. His mind was racing. He was still thinking about his father and about the faction that was hunting Master Lao. "I hope once I save my father and create a body for you, I will finally have fewer things to worry about." Master Lao was silent for a moment. After a minute, he sighed and replied, "I don't want to destroy your hopes, but I don't think this will be the case. Not only because you have the talent to get yourself into trouble, but also because this is a very big world with many powerful people. They never like it when someone arises that could become a competitor. You need to be careful, Xavier, and keep your guard up at all times." "I understand." Xavier stood up, stretched himself, and left the small room. Outside the room was a janitor who was startled as he saw the student. He was about to complain, but Xavier rushed away. "Sorry, I had to find a quiet place. I won't enter again." Xavier hurried through the hallway. He did not bother to look for the high-level training rooms. They were most likely all occupied. Additionally, he could not afford to get into another fight, especially not here. All the people here were much more powerful than Xavier, and although he had the benefit of the merged flame, he did not want to rely only on this one attack. Using this attack was extremely draining. As quietly as he could, Xavier snuck to the middle-level training area and searched for a room that had an empty spot for him. Luckily, there were not too many people around, so this was easy to find. Xavier snuck inside and sat down with crossed legs. He took off his robe and rubbed the fire spirit ointment all over his torso. Once this was done, he swallowed a swift training pill and closed his eyes to begin his training. Much to his relief, he did not get interrupted during his training. Because of this, Xavier lost any feeling of time. At first, a few hours passed, then a few days, and before Xavier realized, half a month had passed. Xavier was still in the training room 2 weeks after he entered. He forgot to eat or sleep. Master Lao kept an eye on him. However, Xavier appeared to be doing fine. so Lau did not have to interrupt him. Xavier was now close to becoming a level 8 She-Master. The Q energy in his Q cyclone was about to overflow. Xavier was almost unconscious while he was training. He sat with crossed legs on the black stone platform and had his eyes closed like a meditating monk. Threads of red fiery Q energy swarmed his body. Suddenly, a low sound echoed through the training room. It sounded like someone hitting a drum. Not long after this sound appeared, Xavier's body jolted as if he had received an electric shock. The sound seemed to come from the inside of his body. He kept his eyes closed, but he fell out of his unconscious state. He appeared to be going through a big change. The threads of Q energy that were swarming toward him suddenly sped up their speed. They came rushing closer. The suction force from Xavier's body increased. His body greedily absorbed all of the Q energy like a bottomless pit. With one final bang, the drumming came to a halt. A powerful Q energy wave came from Xavier's body. The air around Xavier was distorted. His body was shaking. The fire spirit ointment on his skin was vaporized by the heat of the energy wave. The small snake that was sleeping peacefully, while it was wrapped around his wrist, did not appear to be bothered. Xavier opened his eyes. A bright beam of green light came from it. It lasted for almost a minute before it disappeared. He let out a deep breath. As he saw that there was some black fog in the air, he furrowed his brows. He was confused for a moment. Wait, is that the searing poison that I absorbed when helping Master Yi? Ugh, I forgot about this. I should be happy nothing happened. Maybe I can try to get rid of a bit. Xavier activated his inner vision and looked for the poison inside his body. He tried to remove some of it with the help of the green heavenly flame, but this quickly proved to be difficult. I did not expect that this poison would be so resistant to the green heavenly flame. It was a lot easier to remove it from someone else's body than my own. It looks like the poison is clinging to my bones. This is really making me uncomfortable. Although the poison is not harming me right now, I shouldn't ignore it. If it mutates, it could get me into trouble. Hopefully I have enough time to find the Fallen Heart Flame and then get rid of it. With the Fallen Heart Heavenly Flame, it should be possible to remove it. After all, the Fallen Heart Heavenly Flame is a lot more powerful than the Green Lotus one, he thought. Xavier stretched himself and stood up. His joints were cracking. Oh man, I should stretch myself more often during training. Xavier sighed. He brushed over his storage ring, and a fresh black robe appeared. He threw it over. While doing so, he glanced at the rainbow-devouring python that wrapped around his wrist. Xavier chuckled. You're still sleeping? What makes you so tired? Don't tell me you're also training. Xavier brushed over the smooth scales on the head of the snake. It was not bothered by it. Must be nice to not be concerned about, well, anything really. Oh well, now that I had my breakthrough, and I'm a level 8 She-Master, it won't be much longer until I can become a battle spirit. I really can't wait to finally be a battle spirit. I remember when I was training in the mountain range of monsters, and I ran into Luna, or, well, Grandmaster Junie in disguise. She was at the level of a battle spirit at the time, and I thought that... Oh, never mind. I don't want to think about that. It's been years. Anyways, I hope this little snake will keep sleeping. If it wakes up, then perhaps we'll run into Queen Medusa again. I have a feeling if she would show up, she would try to fight me and threaten to kill me if I didn't refine the level 6 spirit pill for her. I'm not prepared to deal with her, or to refine her pill. Don't worry, kid. She won't attack you before she gets the pill, so there's no need to stress. She'll be unhappy when you tell her that you still need some time before you can refine her pill, but she will accept it. She has no other choice. Xavier's heart rejoiced as he heard Master Lau's voice in his mind. Master Lau, it's good to hear your voice. I was training for a lot longer than I thought. Time was moving so quickly, and I didn't even notice half a month had passed. Man, I hope you're right. The last thing I need is someone else causing me problems. Are you sure she needs this spirit pill so badly? Absolutely. It'll cause her strength to increase many times. You see, I did hear a story about another queen of the snake people. This queen lived many hundreds or thousands of years ago. I was not sure if it was a true story or just a legend, but I came to realize it must have been a true story. This queen also evolved. They say she evolved into a 7-winged golden snake. although this snake is a little bit weaker than a rainbow-devouring python. It took 3 war kings to deal with her, at least according to the story. Xavier was speechless as he heard this. 3 war kings? That's insane. Does this mean that Queen Medusa will be more powerful than 3 war kings when she appears again? This is going to be difficult to deal with. She was already annoying enough before she evolved. Xavier walked out of the training room and headed upward. He did not stop on his way out of the tower. As he reached the ground floor, he already saw the open gate to the world outside. The light that flooded through the gate blinded him. His eyes were burning. After a few minutes, he could look at the blue sky without his eyes tearing up. Not a single cloud was in sight. Xavier hurried out of the tower and walked for almost an hour. He needed to move his legs before returning to his living quarters. They felt a bit numb after all the training, and also due to the side effect of the swift training pill. As he finally got tired and made his way to his living quarters, it took him another hour to arrive there. He took a careful look at the guards that Sonny stationed in front of his entrance. They must have been training as well. I can tell that they're close to becoming She-Masters. That's fantastic news. The more powerful the people in our Steelgate faction are, the more powerful our Steelgate faction will be. The guards that were at the entrance remembered their leader immediately. They smiled and took bows as Xavier came closer. Xavier replied by bowing himself. As he strolled through the door, he patted one of the guards on his shoulders. The guard was startled and flushed red. He laughed a little bit. Looks like Chief Xavier leveled up. Soon enough, he'll become a battle spirit. Man, he makes an awesome chief, doesn't he? Yeah, he does, the other guard agreed. Have you heard about what happened in the Q training tower? You mean the incident where Chief Xavier got into a fight with some battle spirit and almost killed him if an elder would not have interfered? I did hear about that. I can't wait to see what other guys Xavier will beat up. Soon enough, people will be so scared of him they would not dare to attack our Steelgate faction, uttered the first guard. Haha, yeah, that'll be great, agreed the other guard. Naturally, Xavier did not overhear any of their conversation. After he entered his house, he ran into Sonny, Layla, and Hao, who were in a spacious, well-lit hall that made up one of the living rooms. Sonny was the first one who noticed Xavier. As she turned to him, a smile lit up on her usually cold face. She was about to walk to Xavier when suddenly, a shadow jumped up and appeared in front of Xavier. It's you! Finally, you're back. You need to hurry up. The ice cleaning medicine is all used up. I was waiting for 3 days hoping you would come back. If you would have been in the tower for another 2 days, I would have gone searching for you. You better refine me more medicine right now. Remember the deal we had, Xavier. Don't tell me you forgot about it. If you forget about it, I'll make sure you'll never forget about it again. It was Jan. He yelled at Xavier and grabbed Xavier's arm. A threatening spark was in his crazy eyes. Xavier struggled to rip his arm free of the strong man's grasp. He rolled his eyes. Calm down, Jan. You won't die without this medicine. I'll get back to you later. Sonny, Layla, how are things going? Were there any problems at the Steelgate faction while I was gone? Did the White Gang cause any issues? Sonny smiled and shook her head. There were some guys who did annoy us at first, but after the fight you got into against Lai, they stopped bothering us. I'm not sure what you did, but it really made them scared. Additionally, some of the older students who had not joined a faction yet, and some who left their factions approached us. They wanted to join. Most of them are She-Masters. Our faction grew almost a quarter in number since you went to the Q Energy Training Tower. Xavier was surprised. We grew a quarter in size? That's amazing news. I did hope that the other students in the tower would leave me alone if I would scare off Lai, but I didn't expect it to benefit our entire faction. I'm afraid there is not only good news, Jan interrupted Xavier. Last time I saw Lai, he was bald. You burned most of his hair off, so he was forced to shave the rest. He seemed pretty mad about it. I don't think he will forgive you for that. Oh, and that pretty girl with the big eyes that he is following around, May? She's pissed too. Offending her is not the problem, though, but her cousin is. Xavier raised an eyebrow. Her cousin? I did hear him being mentioned. What was his name again? His name is Kyo. They call him Spear of Terror. He's not just some ordinary guy. He's a real threat. You need to be careful around him. I don't think he would be too scared of your green-purple flame. Jan took a step back from Xavier. His face was serious. How strong is Kyo? Xavier questioned. Jan let out a cold laugh. You can ask Hal about that. He was lingering around the fighting arena most of the time while you were gone. I'm sure he ran into Keo there. Jan walked to a chair next to a table and let himself fall onto it. Xavier looked at Hal. Hal bit his lips. His face turned pale. I did hear a lot about Keo. They say he's almost always in the top 10 of the top 50 rankings. Almost no other student is in the top 10 as often as he is. I watched him fight as well. He won against 8 opponents in a row. I can't think of anyone else who could manage that. Hal did not hide the envy in his voice as he said this. Xavier nodded. He sat next to Jan and poured himself a cup of tea. Xavier thought for a moment and took a sip. That must be serious then. Even Hal struggled to win more than one round in the fighting arena. So you all think he will be difficult to deal with? Jan laughed. That's an understatement if I ever heard one. The only upside to this is that he is busy, or so I've heard. He spends most days in the tower or in the arena. I don't think he has much time to defend his cousin May. However, the grand competition is coming up in 6 months. He's definitely preparing for that. And if he hears what happened while he was gone... Jan looked at Xavier and made a cutting motion across his own neck. Xavier understood. Then he'll kill me. Got it. I think there's a queue for people who want to kill me. Jan laughed. At least you have 6 months. Maybe you can come up with some escape plan in this time. Should I worry about him challenging me for this grand competition? I've never heard of this grand competition, but it sounds like it could be bad. Xavier's concern grew. Jan waved it off. I'm not surprised you haven't heard about it. If it helps, you don't need to worry about that. The grand competition is only for students who are in the top 50. We ordinary people can only watch from the sidelines. The top 10 of the grand competition have the requirements to become an elder in the inner circle. They would also get a special price. Special price? Yes, their special price is that they have a chance to enter the 9th floor of the Q training tower and can forge their body with the source of the so-called heart flame. A hint of envy was in Jan's voice as he told Xavier all of this. He had a dreamy look on his face. Xavier, on the other hand, furrowed his brows. He had already realized that this heart flame everyone was talking about was clearly the fallen heart heavenly flame that he was looking for. Do you know something about the the heart flame? Did you ever get close to it? Jan laughed. Got close to it? Oh man, I wish. There are a lot of benefits if you are strong enough to get close to the heart flame. It's considered the core of the inner circle. It's what makes the inner circle such a great place to train. It's what makes everyone level up so much faster. They say if you approach the flame, your body will be forged to become stronger than ever before. When your body is forged, you'll immediately level up to become a strong Q master. As Jan said this, Layla and Hal were about to drool. A Q master? For real? Jan shrugged. To be honest, I don't know. It's what I've heard. Not sure if there's much truth to it. Maybe the elders made it up to motivate us. I've never met any of those people who went down to the 9th floor of the tower. You already need to be very powerful to reach the 9th floor, without being burnt to ash by the flame. I know that the elders are required to go down there for their training, but aside from them, I can't think of any student who is qualified to go down there. A strong Q master. Xavier let the words roll over his tongue. Jan, you say that someone in the top 50 can participate, right? So if I would be in the top 50, I could participate? Jan laughed. Are you serious? Look, I don't want to destroy your hopes, but there's no way you can reach the top 50 within 6 months and stay in the top 50 until the grand competition starts. Have you met any of those people who are usually in the top 50? They're monsters. You have no chance to join them in 6 months. Xavier's expression did not change as Jan tried to talk him out of it. A dangerous spark lit up in Xavier's eyes. It looked as if he had just made a decision. Xavier was sitting on a chair in the hall of his living quarters. He looked at Jan. The crazy red glow in Jan's eyes was a lot less intense. Xavier brushed over his storage ring and pulled out 2 bottles with a liquid inside. Here, there are 2 more bottles with the ice-cleaning medicine. I prepared some in advance, just in case. Jan greedily ripped the bottles out of Xavier's hand. His eyes were beaming with joy as he saw the precious liquid. He jumped up from his chair. Thank you, Xavier. You have no idea how badly I need this. Xavier smiled. I think in another month, That fire poison should be completely gone from your body. Jan hurriedly nodded. Oh, I should give you that before I forget about it. Jan tapped against the storage ring on his finger, and a green vine came forth. He handed it to Xavier. At the same time, he put the 2 bottles with the ice-cleaning liquid inside his storage ring. The green celestial vine. Xavier took the vine. His eyes lit up. The celestial vine felt warm to the touch, almost as if it was alive. Jan, aren't you worried that the medicine I gave you won't be enough? Or that it's poison or something? You really trust me a lot, don't you? Jan brushed it off. It's not like you can run away and hide anywhere. I know where you live. Besides, I'm sure it'll be fine. The first bottle of medicine you gave me helped me a lot, so I don't think the next one will be any worse in quality. You also acted like you really needed this celestial vine for something. I don't think you would risk losing the vine to stab me in my back. Xavier was glad to hear that. Thank you, Jan. You already sound a lot more reasonable. I guess the effect of the hidden fire poison really got much weaker. This was not only good news for Jan, but also good for Xavier. Judging from Jan's behavior, he really felt as if he was in Xavier's debt, and Jan was a powerful man. Having him as an ally will be very beneficial for the Steelgate faction. Xavier placed the green celestial vine in his storage ring with his other ingredients. Jan emptied his cup of tea that was standing on the table and got cold while they were talking, and then clapped his hands. All right, since I got 2 more bottles of the ice cleaning medicine, I should be going. Look, when I said I owe you, I wasn't kidding. Let me know if you need anything, or when the Spear of Terror shows up here and causes you trouble. I don't know if I can win a fight against him, but I can help you to beat him up. And yes, I know you said the vine is enough as a payment for the medicine, but I don't think so. You saved my life after all, and I don't think my life is worth as much as some wrinkly old tree branch. Xavier didn't bother to correct Jan by telling him how precious this ingredient was. Instead, he nodded and smiled as he watched Jan walk out of his house. Once he was gone, Xavier let out a bitter laugh. He really has no idea about how rare this ingredient is. That's insane. I shouldn't complain about that. Now, I only need to find 2 more ingredients to refine the Earth Spirit Pill. They won't be easy to find. In the meantime, Sunny looked a bit concerned. She walked up to Xavier. In her hands was a cup of hot tea. She blew some of the steam away before she looked at Xavier and told him what was bothering her. If even that crazy guy doesn't think he can fight the so-called Spear of Terror, then I don't think either of us will have a chance as well. Xavier shrugged. It's not like we'll have to fight him alone. We have an entire faction. And if you said we grew a quarter in size, that means we have what? About 60 to 62 people? I think we have a good chance to defeat him. Sunny sighed and took a sip of her tea. After a moment of silence, she helplessly nodded. I really hope you were right, Xavier. I'm still not sure how to feel about this. I've heard a lot about the Spear of Terror while you were gone. Some of the things really scared me. Although I don't like to admit this, especially not in front of the other students. They're all optimistic that everything will be fine, and I don't want to worry them, but let's deal with that later. There was something else I wanted to ask you. How much fire energy do you have left on your fire crystal card? Xavier was taken aback. He was unsure himself. He hadn't checked his card for a while. With one swift motion, he made the card appear from his storage ring and checked the display. Oh, I only have about 30 days worth of fire energy left. That'll be enough for 10 days of training on the 3rd floor of the tower. I need to get some more. Sunny let out a deep sigh and rolled her eyes. She looked annoyed. Xavier was surprised to see her like this. What's wrong? Do you need fire energy? Layla, who stood near the window in the hall, took a few steps toward Xavier and answered on Sunny's behalf. No, it's not just me that needs fire energy, but our faction. Fire energy is what we have instead of gold. It's what we use to pay for everything, and our faction is growing, so we will need more and more fire energy if we want to keep running things smoothly. We need to get more fire energy, and as our leader, this is also your responsibility. Do you understand, Xavier? Sunny bit her lips and nodded. I'm afraid Layla is right. My fire energy is also almost used up. It's difficult to run the Steelgate faction and get fire energy. It's not like I can just leave everyone here to get more fire energy by challenging people in the arena. I did trade in a high-level D technique for some fire energy, but it wasn't even enough for 5 days. Xavier felt how his heart sank. I'm sorry. I didn't even consider this. You all said it would be fine if I went to the tower to train for a while, so I assumed everything was taken care of. What about Hal? How much fire energy does he have left? Sonny let out a snort before bursting into laughter. I don't think much, seeing how he keeps losing all his fights in the arena. Hal turned as red as his robe as he heard Sonny mocking him. I'm not losing all of them. He shrank down in his chair before murmuring, just most of them. But the people who compete in the arena are really tough, but I'm working on it. I already won a lot more fights this week. Layla looked at him with piercing eyes. For a moment, Xavier was worried she was going to jump at Hal's throat. Instead, she rolled her eyes. Hal, by the time you've earned back all the money you've lost, our faction will be ruined. If things keep going this way, we can't pay our guards. If we can't even pay our own people, we're losing all the credibility and respect we've built up so far. Xavier bit his lips. The guilt began to gnaw on him. I really had no idea it would be that bad. I'm sorry. I really messed up. I've been training for weeks and left all the work to you three. I shouldn't have been so careless. Sonny placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Xavier, don't overthink this. You're not alone in this. We'll all work together and find a way of fixing things. Don't worry too much. And how are we going to fix things? I need to do something, he replied. Sonny brushed a strand of hair behind her ear while she thought. Well, the easiest but slowest way to get some fire energy is by doing some jobs for the academy. You know, like cleaning in the Q training tower, cleaning in the kitchens of the restaurants, these kinds of things. But it's not something we can do because it would take ages to make enough for our faction. There will also be some fire energy distributed at the beginning of every month, but it's not much. The stronger people go to the fighting arena to challenge each other for fire energy, but this is difficult to do. Remember how scared people were of Hal in the outer academy? In the inner circle, he's just a punching bag. The people in the fighting arena are a lot tougher than the ones we are used to fighting. And if we would challenge someone and lose, we would end up losing even more fire energy, which is the last thing we need right now. But there is another way of getting fire energy, one that you have a bit of experience in. Sonny looked at Xavier with a smile and big eyes. Xavier was confused for a moment. What other way are you talking about? It suddenly dawned on Xavier. Wait, Sonny, you're not going where I think you're going, are you? Sonny shrugged. Well, are you an alchemist or not? Selling pills and potions would be our best shot. Or maybe you can trade in some ingredients. Jan seemed to have some experience with this, and he's not even an alchemist. Lots of other students hunt for monster hearts or other ingredients, and exchange them for fire energy to the students who are alchemists. Xavier nodded, thinking silently for a minute. That is my area of expertise. Maybe I could sell some healing pills. Suddenly, Hal jumped up from his chair. His chair fell backward. Whoa, stop there, Xavier. This is a really bad idea. Xavier was taken aback. What? Why? It's our best shot. Hal hurriedly shook his head. It's not. You know I spent a lot of my time in the fighting arena. And there, I've heard about a faction of alchemists. They're referred to as the doctors. They're not official doctors, though. They're all the alchemists who sell about 90% of the healing pills that are sold in the inner circle. Someone told me that most alchemists in the inner circle join them. If an alchemist does not join them, they struggle to compete against the doctors. I've also heard that their leader can refine a level 4 pill. I don't know anything about alchemy, but I do think that's a big deal. Xavier thought for a moment. A level 4 pill, huh? I can refine a level 4 pill as well by now, so it should not be impossible to compete against their leader. I still think it's our best shot to sell healing pills. We can't avoid competition all the time. People will think that our Steelgate faction consists of a bunch of cowards if we hide at the slightest sign of trouble. Sonny smiled and nodded. I agree with Xavier. We can't stay here, hide, and hope for the best. However, you do know that this means you will have to take a break from your training for a while, Xavier. Yeah, I realized that it would come to this, but it's all right. I still feel bad for leaving all the work to you guys. The least I can do is help you to sell some pills to get fire energy to make up for it. Xavier laughed and rubbed the back of his head. Layla crossed her arms in front of her chest. Good. I'm glad you will make up for it. Taking care of the Steel Gate faction was a lot of work. Meanwhile, Hal looked unhappy, but did not want to start an argument. All right, if you all say so, then I'll help. Xavier, maybe you can sell those Q energy recovery pills you handed us during the fire energy hunting competition. I remember that they were pretty good. People would fight for some Q energy recovery pills, especially in the fighting arena. Xavier mused for a while as Howe said this. Selling Q energy recovery pills. Do you think the so-called doctors can't refine those? No, they can, but they're not as good. I bought one for 2 days worth of fire energy, so I can compare them to each other. Howe explained and poured himself another cup of tea. Xavier grinned. That's a fantastic idea. We can sell Q energy recovery pills in the fighting arena and healing pills in the Q training tower. The people within the tower are scared of training for too long due to the effects of the hidden fire poison. By selling them healing pills, they can extend their training for 1 or 2 days without having to worry about the poison. Whoa, hold on there, Xavier. Extend the training time in the tower? Suddenly, Layla's usually cold face brightened up. Why did you never mention that your healing pills could do that? I would have demanded some. Xavier let out an awkward laugh. I didn't mention that? Sorry, that's my bad. I thought I told you all. I think a lot of people would be interested in that sort of pill. Sonny and the other two nodded. Can we help you with the refining process? Xavier thought for a moment. Well, not with the refining process directly, but I will give you a list of ingredients that I need for the pills. I want all of you to look around in the inner circle to gather as many of them as possible. The others agreed without hesitating. They were all looking forward to getting more fire energy. Once the decision was made, they went back to what they were doing. Hal went to the fighting arena, Layla went to the Q training tower, and Xavier finally had some time to take a break. Before heading to his room, he handed Sunny his fire crystal card and told her to use as much fire energy as she needed to get the ingredients. The next morning, the entire Steelgate faction was busy. Early in the morning, Sunny, Layla, and Hal gathered some of the other members and told them about their plan. The other students were thrilled. Immediately, they wanted to help in any way they could. They spent all day rushing through the inner circle to gather the ingredients Xavier had listed. By the end of the day, the group came back to the living quarters. They were clearly exhausted, but seemed satisfied with their results. They went to a large hall that was hidden in Xavier's living quarters and put every ingredient they gathered on the table. Sonny then went to get Xavier, who was busy training in his room. As he made his way into the hall and eyed the ingredients, he smiled. The other students were relieved to see that Xavier appeared to be happy with their results. A sense of pride overcame them. Did we get everything you needed, Chief Xavier? One of them asked. Xavier inspected the ingredients. He could tell that Sonny and the others worked hard to get all of the ingredients. Yes, that's amazing. Thank you all so much for your hard work. I really appreciate it. How much did they cost you? In total, we had to spend about 180 days worth of fire energy. Me, Layla, Hal, and your fire energy was not enough for that. But Taro and some of the other members of our faction helped us out. We had to spend everything, so our faction is now completely broke. I hope we can make up for it once we start selling some pills. Sunny bit her lips. It was clear that she was worried. Xavier put a hand on her shoulder and comforted her. I'm sure we can make up for it. Don't worry, Sunny. I promised to pay Taro and the others twice the amount they gave us to reward them. It should not be too difficult to sell the pills. You remember that I have experience in that, don't you? Xavier winked. Sunny's mood was instantly lifted. Are you referring to that time you sold medicine in the marketplace of Wutan City to help out your father and the clan? I do remember that. I can't believe how long ago this was. That was years ago. I hope you're still as good of a salesman as you were back then. I'm sure I'll manage. Xavier laughed. Sunny laughed as well, but suddenly stopped as she remembered something else. Oh, Xavier, before I forget, I wanted to ask you something. You see, I think it would be a good idea to hire some of our members to gather ingredients. Gathering ingredients today was a lot of hard work. If we could hire some and tell them to be on the lookout for ingredients throughout the month, it would be less stressful for us. It would also be less expensive, since we can spread the cost of ingredients over an entire month, and not only one day. We could pay this group by the end of the month, depending on how many ingredients they have gathered. Xavier nodded. His expression was serious. I think that's a great idea. I'll get started with the refining immediately, and we can discuss the other details later. Thank you, Xavier. Maybe I should also tell you that I was able to gather some information about the pills that the doctors are selling. They seem to specialize in 2 different medicines. The first one is called Spring Pill, and it is the Q Energy Recovering Pill that Hal had mentioned. The other medicine is just a very basic healing medicine. I ordered one of our members to get a sample of the pills, so you can see what you're up against. Sunny brushed over a storage ring on her finger, and two small jade bottles came flying forth. She handed them to Xavier. Silently, Xavier praised Sunny for how smart she was. He didn't even think to get a sample of the pills. Sunny was really brilliant when it came to things like planning. Thank you, Sunny. That's great. I'll take a look at them. I'll handle everything from here and get back to you once I'm done with refining the pills. Please make sure that no one walks in or bothers me while I'm refining the pills. If I get disturbed, it could mess up the process. I understand. Don't worry. I'll make sure no one bothers you. Everyone, please follow me so Xavier can get started. Sunny waved to the others and led them outside. Once she walked through the door, she closed it behind her and guarded it to make sure no one would enter it. Xavier sat at the table with the ingredients and took a deep breath. There are not as many ingredients as I hoped for, but I guess it'll do. He then shifted his attention to the two small jade bottles that Sunny handed him earlier. Let's see what our competitors have refined. Xavier opened the first bottle with the spring pill inside and took a sniff. A faint, refreshing, flowery scent hit Xavier's nose. Immediately, Xavier had to laugh. Wow, they really are careless. I guess they don't put any effort into refining their pills since they have no competition. This pill is barely a level 1 healing pill. He closed the bottle and opened the second one. Inside it was not a pill, but some sort of dark red salve. Xavier took a sniff. It was easy for him to tell what ingredients were used. There were only a few ingredients. None of them were particularly rare or high in value. It should not be too difficult to compete against these so-called doctors. They won't be much of a threat, he thought. Xavier closed the second bottle and placed both of them at the side. He then brushed over his storage ring, and his cauldron came forth. He placed it in front of him and stared at it. Suddenly, Master Lao manifested himself next to Xavier. His sudden appearance startled Xavier. Master Lao, I thought you said you're not going to appear as often anymore because you're worried someone might detect you. Master Lao nodded and rubbed over his beard. I did say so, yes. However, your girlfriend created a Q shield around the room, so I don't think anyone will detect me now, he chuckled. Sunny did what? Xavier was flustered. She really takes this seriously. Master Lao hummed in agreement. By the way, Xavier, I did overhear your conversation with Sunny and the others, and I would like to help you, so I'll give you a tip. When refining the healing pill, try to experiment a bit more. For example, if you double a certain ingredient, you might achieve a stronger effect. If you add another ingredient with healing abilities, you might create an entirely different medicine. Xavier furrowed his brows. That would be nice and all, but I can't afford any experiments right now. If I mess up, I'll waste the ingredients that Sunny and the others had to work so hard for. I see. Then let me help you some more. Remember the unicorn horn that we got in the mountain range of monsters? You refined it into a fine powder. You can take a very small amount of the powder, refine it again, and mix it with some refined spirit grass. Then, you can put those two combined ingredients into the cauldron while refining a healing pill. This way, you can create a restoration pill. This pill will be a lot stronger than any ordinary healing pill. Additionally, only a few ingredients are enough to create a large number of this pill, due to the strong potency of the unicorn horn. Only a few grains of the refined horn are enough for about 10 of those pills. Xavier's eyes lit up as he heard this. That is amazing. Thank you, Master Lao. Don't worry about it, kid. Oh, and maybe you can use some of the other ingredients you've collected while traveling to come up with something else. That way, you don't have to waste any of the ingredients that Sunny and the others gathered for you, and maybe you can come up with your own recipe. As an alchemist, it would be good if you could learn how to do this. Once Master Lao said this, he vanished back into the ancient ring on Xavier's finger. Xavier thought for a moment, and then nodded. I don't think I have many ingredients left from my journey, but I can see what I can find inside my storage ring. Xavier then pulled out whatever he could find in his storage ring, and placed these ingredients on the table near the other ingredients. There were a lot more ingredients than Xavier remembered, although not enough to come up with something groundbreaking. Xavier thought for a while, and lit up his cauldron with the green heavenly flame. While thinking about coming up with his own recipe, Xavier refined a handful of Q energy recovery pills. Since he had refined these pills countless times before, he did not have to focus too much on the process. It came automatically to him and was as easy as breathing by now. Once this was done, he went on to refine the restoration pill that Lau had mentioned. Since Xavier was familiar with most of the process, this was not too difficult either. All he had to do was put all the refined ingredients into the cauldron, add the additional refined unicorn horn that had been mixed with the spirit grass, and refine as usual. As Xavier took the first restoration pill from the cauldron, he was happy with the result. It looked like an ordinary healing pill, but had a faint glow to it. The refreshing scent coming from it was also a lot more intense than the one of an ordinary pill. Once Xavier refined a batch of these pills, he turned toward the batch of ingredients that he had pulled from his storage ring. He inspected every ingredient and considered his options. There are some ingredients left that have a soothing and cooling effect, like this white spirit fruit. Perhaps I can refine an icy pill that soothes the effect of the fallen heart heavenly flame in the tower. That way, someone could spend more time training in the tower. Master Lau, do you think this would work? Xavier waited for a moment. There was no reply. Xavier rolled his eyes. All right, I understand. I'll figure it out on my own. Xavier then started the process. He tried to apply the things he learned from refining other pills. Okay, so this ingredient has an ice attribute, and these two ingredients have a healing ability. If I combine it, it should cool the body temperature down, and therefore help someone to withstand the heat in the Q training tower. Xavier lowered the heat of the cauldron by waving his hand, making the green heavenly flame less intense. He refined the ingredients and slowly combined them in his cauldron. It looked as if it was going well. All the practice seemed to pay off. Gradually, a small pill began to form. Once it was done, Xavier waved his hand, and the fire of the cauldron went out. He flicked his fingers, and the pill shot from the cauldron. A very faint white fog surrounded the pill. It felt cold to the touch. Master Lau, can you tell me if this pill would work if someone takes it to withstand the flame in the tower? The ancient ring on Xavier's finger trembled. Master Lau manifested himself once more. He leaned over Xavier's shoulder and took a careful look at the pill. A proud smile spread over the old man's face. Incredible. Yes, that should be good enough to give the students another day or two, in which they can train without having to worry about the hidden fire poison affecting them. If I would still have enough ingredients, I would refine another bunch. You can never have enough pills, just in case. Xavier was happy to hear Lau's words of approval. He smiled and nodded. You're right, Master Lau, especially since this will be the first time that the Steelgate faction sells pills. I imagine there will be a huge interest in our pills at the beginning. I need to take advantage of this situation while I can. Xavier did not waste any time. He went back to refine several more pills, and Master Lau went back inside the ring. Xavier spent the entire day in this room. Meanwhile, Sunny, who was outside the room, got nervous. I hope everything is fine. What are you so worried about, Sunny? It was Layla who approached Sunny. Oh, it's nothing. I'm sure it's fine. Xavier has been inside the room refining pills all day, so I'm a bit worried. But I shouldn't underestimate him. I'm sure he knows what he's doing in there. Layla laughed. I'm sure it's fine. You know that alchemists can be weird when it comes to refining their pills. I've met a handful of alchemists in my life. My grandpa is friends with many. Anyway, if you need a break, I can guard the door until tomorrow if you want me to. Sure, that would be nice. Let me know if he comes out. Sunny was grateful for Layla's offer and made her way to go to her room and rest. During the night, not much happened. Xavier continued to refine pill after pill. He continued into the early morning hours. Dark rings were around his eyes, yet he did not stop. He knew he had to make up for leaving Sunny and the others alone to focus on his training. The guilt was eating him up. Sunny and the others were already up and had breakfast. Hal and Sunny went to the door so that Layla could get some rest. A few hours later, Layla went back to the door. Hal and Sunny stood still in front of it. Is Xavier still refining pills? It's been a day. I guess he feels really bad for leaving us alone. Layla murmured, half jokingly. Sunny sighed. He's always been like that. For as long as I have known him. Back in our village, he would also refine pills and sell them before heading off to his adventures. He was worried that otherwise the chief of our clan would not have made it. Financially, I mean. Taking care of any faction or any clan is expensive. But wasn't the chief of his clan his father? If he's anything like Xavier, I'm sure it would have been fine. Layla was not overly concerned. Sunny shook her head. The chief of the Xiao clan was a great leader, but he was not like Xavier at all. Then again, Xavier was adopted into the clan, so that is not too surprising. Hao straightened up as he heard this. Xavier was adopted? Really? Sunny nodded and leaned against the wall next to the door. Yes, some elder found him in the streets of a foreign continent. The elder recognized Xavier's talent and brought him to the Xiao clan. I still have no idea who this elder was. I've never seen him again. What happened to his parents? Were they dead? Sunny nodded. Hao understood. I see. I had no idea, so I'm surprised. I guess Xavier does not like to talk about his past, does he? You know, I was also adopted. My parents got killed. I was alone for a long time after that, and I was really happy as Master Wu, the leader of the law enforcement unit at Nanji Academy, adopted me. This way, I could help the law enforcement unit and do something good in this world. I promised myself to get rid of as many criminals as possible, and hopefully avenge my parents. As the door opened, Layla, Hao, and Sunny turned simultaneously toward it. Xavier stood at the door. He had a tired smile on his face. I am done. He took a step back so that the others could see his work. Their eyes widened with shock. Sunny, Hao, and Layla looked through the door into the large hall, where Xavier spent more than a day refining the medicine that their Steel Gate faction wanted to sell for fire energy. Their jaws dropped. On the table in the hall were dozens of small crystal bottles. Sunny was the first one who walked to the table to take a closer look. Xavier, how many pills did you refine? This is unbelievable. Xavier tried to wave it off, but could not hide the pride in his voice. There are 3 different sorts of pills. One of them is the Q Energy Recovery Pill. There are 83 of those. Then there are also 62 restoration pills, which function like healing pills, but are stronger than ordinary ones. There are also 36 anti-fire poison pills, which enable students to train for an additional day, without worrying about the effects of the flame in the Q training tower. In total, we have 181 pills. So many! Layla, Hao, and Sunny were overwhelmed with happiness. They could not believe that Xavier refined so many pills in only one day. Sunny jumped into Xavier's arms. Thank you so much, Xavier. You're really saving us all. Xavier wrapped his arms around Sunny. His face flushed red. Her hair smelled of roses. I'm glad I could help. It's the least I could do after leaving my faction for so long. Xavier stretched himself and sat down on a chair at the table. Almost immediately, he fell asleep. Sunny was not surprised. She went to get a blanket and put it over Xavier's shoulders. By the time Xavier woke up again, it was already getting dark. The setting sun bathed the room in a faint red light. Xavier stretched himself and looked at the blanket on his shoulders. A warm feeling spread through his chest. He silently thanked Sunny, who must have been selling the pills by now, and stood up. His exhaustion from refining the medicine was gone. As Xavier walked around the room to stretch his body a bit, the door opened softly. It was Taro. As he saw Xavier, he took a faint bow. Chief Xavier, I'm sorry. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Everything is going well, so you can go back to sleep if you want to. Are you sure about that? I don't want to leave Sunny and the others alone again. There's still a lot we have to do to make our faction stronger, Xavier replied. Don't worry about that. Sunny and the others are still at work selling the pills, but they don't mind. They should be done soon, and you've already done a lot for our Steelgate faction, Taro informed. Xavier poured himself a cup of tea, and beckoned Taro closer to pour him one as well. I need to thank you as well. Sunny told me that you and some of your friends helped to pay for the ingredients that I needed to refine the pills. Taro laughed and waved it off. Don't mention it. It's the least we could do. You're the one who protected us during the fire energy hunting competition, and now we are under your protection in the Steelgate faction. Most of us are really grateful for this, and we won't forget your kindness. Xavier shook his head. All of you have been very helpful. If anyone should be grateful, it should be me. I already ordered Sunny to double the amount of fire energy you and your friends lent our faction. Taro's jaw dropped as he heard this. He was about to protest, as suddenly, footsteps came closer, making him turn around. A group of people, led by Sunny, Layla, and Hao, entered the hall. They all looked happy as if they were celebrating something. Xavier, you're finally awake. I can't wait to tell you everything that happened while you were asleep. As everyone entered, the hall instantly ended up crowded. Sonny sat down at the end of the table. Xavier, Layla, and Hal sat close to each other. The other students also took a seat. Unfortunately, there were not enough chairs, so a handful of students were forced to stand around the table. Sonny smiled. We have sold 30 Q Energy recovery pills and 35 restoration pills. We have only sold 14 anti-fire poison pills for 3 days worth of fire energy each. The people were a bit unsure if the anti-fire poison pills worked, since no one had ever heard of them before. On the upside, the students who bought the anti-fire poison pills were pretty strong. If we give it a day or two and they are happy with the results, I'm sure they'll tell their friends about it. Once word spreads, we'll sell more of these pills and then can also increase the prices for those. That's a good start. How much did you all make in total? Xavier asked. We made 107 days worth of fire energy. I think that's incredible for only 1 day. If we continue in this way, then we should have back the money that we spent in no time. No wonder everyone is jealous of alchemists. It's true what they say. As an alchemist, you'll never have to worry about money. But there is something that worries me, Xavier. It's about that faction of alchemists, the doctors. They didn't do anything yet, but it won't take long until they hear about our plans and try to shut our business down. I suggest that we should buy as many ingredients as possible tomorrow with all the fire energy that we have earned today. Xavier quickly understood why Sonny would suggest buying as many ingredients as possible. You're worried that this alchemist faction will buy up all the ingredients to prevent us from making more fire pills? Sonny nodded. I know it sounds like I'm paranoid, but I would not be surprised if they would do something like that. They really won't be happy about the competition. Additionally, they're struggling a lot less than we are when it comes to fire energy. After selling pills for so long, I'm sure they have a lot more fire energy than we could even dream of. We need to take precautions. Xavier furrowed his brows and nodded. You're right, Sonny. We should not underestimate these doctors. Sonny, I want you, Layla, and Hal to sell the remaining pills tomorrow. I also want you to pay Taro and the others twice the amount of fire energy they invested. Once we've sold more pills, every member that has helped will get another reward. As soon as Xavier said this, the students around the table were startled. At first, they could not believe what they heard. Once they realized that Xavier was honest, they applauded and cheered and chanted Xavier's name. It was a joyful atmosphere in the large room. Xavier knew that this meant he had to spend a lot of fire energy to reward them, but he did not mind. There was no reason to be stingy right now. He was confident that he could afford it once all the pills had sold. He also knew that he had to make sure the members of his faction would stay loyal and devoted to him. Having loyal members in his Steelgate faction meant that they were less likely to leave the faction. It also meant that they had more motivation to work hard to help the faction. This was what Xavier needed right now. Once his faction had more members and was more powerful, he would easily earn all of the expenses back, and this manifold. The day after this, the members of the Steelgate faction divided their workforce as agreed. Sonny, Layla, and Hal helped some of the other members to sell the remaining pills, and in the meantime, Xavier led some other members to the trading area. They gathered all the ingredients that they could find, and then went back to the living quarters. Xavier thanked the students for their help, and went back to refining the pills. By the time Sonny and the others were back, Xavier was still busy refining. They had sold almost every healing pill and a large batch of the other pills. Just like Sonny predicted, the interest in the anti-fire poison pill was a lot higher than on the first day. The strong people who purchased the first ones must have been happy with the results and told their friends about it. Within one night, everyone talked about the new alchemist and his high-quality medicine. Even the people who had no idea about pills or alchemy could tell that Xavier's pills had a much better effect than the pills that the doctors sold. By the end of the second day, Sonny, Layla, and Hal almost made twice the amount of fire energy than on the first day. As the other members of their faction heard this, they were thrilled. They were celebrating for hours. It really was a great benefit to have an alchemist for a leader. Unfortunately, not everyone in the inner circle was happy about this sudden appearance of a new alchemist. This was also why the doctors issued an emergency meeting. They gathered in a large, luxurious hall. The blinds from the large ornate windows were closed, so no one could look inside. A few candles and moonstones on the wall lit up the otherwise dark hall. Their leader, a man in a black alchemist robe, was sitting in the leader's chair at the front of an enormous table. More than a dozen people were gathered around this table. The atmosphere in their hall was gloomy. No one knew what to say. They just sat there, in silence. Everyone was thinking about the same thing. Their leader tapped his finger against the armrest. After the tense silence continued for 5 minutes, their leader finally spoke up. "Who knows something about this new alchemist that appeared out of nowhere?" A woman not far from him answered his question. "I only heard some rumors, so I cannot confirm if it's true. What I heard is that their leader is called Xavier. He's from the Xiao clan, a small clan within the Empire of the Heavens. They say he was also the student who led the new students during the fire energy hunting competition." The others in the hall broke into murmuring. Of course, they all heard about this. Some people began to talk to each other. "Isn't that the same guy who almost killed Shiro?" "No, I think it's the same guy who almost killed Lai in the Q training tower. He's also the leader of the Steel Gate faction, who picked a fight with the White Gang. You know, the gang that is led by Bai Fang." "You're both right. He almost killed Shiro, and almost killed Lai, too," someone else added. The others were shocked. "Wait, that was the same guy? You're kidding. That's terrifying." As their leader hit on the wooden table, everyone shut up. Their leader gnashed his teeth. "I don't care how terrifying he is, or how many people he killed. We need to deal with him and his faction before we're out of business. You see these 3 small crystal bottles in front of me?" Their leader raised one of them in the air to demonstrate. "In each of these bottles is a pill that is more powerful than anything we sell. They're also cheaper. Not much longer, and our monopoly on the sale of medicine in the inner circle will be gone." The others were unhappy. Once more they broke into murmuring and whispering. "Then what should we do? We can't just sit here and complain while they're getting more and more reputation for their medicine." Their leader rubbed his chin in thought. After a long while, he spoke up. "Figure out what ingredients were used to create these pills. We will then offer twice the amount of fire energy to buy the ingredients they need to refine these pills. We might not have such a powerful pill to offer. We do have more fire energy than they do. They only arrived at the inner circle a few weeks ago. They undoubtedly started to sell medicine because they ran out of fire energy. It's what happens to every new student sooner or later. They spent 2 days selling medicine. Do we have any insight on how much they sold?" Their leader looked from one of his high-ranking members to the others. They all shook their head. Their leader sighed. "That is bad news, but it cannot be helped. Either way, we'll have to deal with this situation as quickly as possible. We can't afford to lose our business. You, over there." "Me?" One of the members was startled as his leader pointed at him. He jumped up and took a bow. "Yes, you. You mentioned something about Xavier having a fight with Lai. Is this true?" The man turned red and stammered around. "Well, yes, I guess. At least that's what I've heard. I wasn't there, but I have a friend who was training at the Q training tower while Xavier was there. My friend told me that he saw how the leader of the new students, Xavier, was approached by Lai. There was also May. You know, that girl who was related to Kyo. They're cousins. Anyway, my friend told me that May wanted to train inside her favorite room, and Xavier told her to get lost. May was upset about this, and Lai wanted to defend her. That's why he ended up in a fight with Xavier. Unfortunately, an elder interrupted just as it got interesting, so nothing happened. All that happened was that Lai got most of his hair burnt off and had to shave his head. Oh, and the elder made Lai and May pay a fine for starting a fight in the tower." Some of the people chuckled. Their leader also had a grin on his face. "I imagine Lai is not too happy about this. I wonder if he would be interested in making Xavier pay for this. You also mentioned that his faction got into trouble with the White Gang. Can you tell me more about that?" I'm afraid not. All I know is that there has been some conflict. The White Gang and the Steelgate faction are both waiting for each other to make a move. I heard some people say that they will challenge each other in 6 months' time, but I don't know if there's much to this. It sounded like it was just a rumor. Their leader nodded. "I think I have an idea. First, I want you to go and invite Chief Bai Fang to our living quarters. I want to have a chat with him. Then, report back to me." The Steelgate faction, led by Xavier, spent a few days selling their pills. Xavier sat in the large hall. Sunny, Hao, and Layla were seated next to him. Food and drinks were on the table. Since they hardly had any time away from work, They decided to have dinner together to take a break. Sunny and the others also stopped accompanying the other students during the sales. They just told the members where they should go to sell the pills and sent them there on their own. The other members quickly caught on, so there was no need to help them sell the pills. Meanwhile, Xavier would refine some more pills. Right now, it was evening, so Xavier and the others anticipated the return of the students who were out to sell the pills. They should have been here at any moment now. In Xavier's hand was his green fire crystal card. He played with it. The display on the card had reached the number of 348. Xavier's eyes could not tear away from the high number. It caused his heart to be filled with joy. Now that he and his faction were selling pills, they would never have to worry about running out of fire energy again. Sunny looked happy. If it were not for your high success rate when refining pills, we would have never been this successful. Thank you, Xavier. From everything I've heard, the doctors had several alchemists as they started out, and they were nowhere near as successful as we are. We're really gaining a lot of reputation amongst the students in the inner circle. Xavier smiled. He stood up and stretched himself. Since he had been refining pills for days, his body was aching. He really was looking forward to getting back to training. Silently, he remembered all the things Hao had told him about the fighting arena. Perhaps it would be nice to check it out. After not doing anything but refining pills for days, his muscles have grown weaker. On the upside, he had refined enough pills to sell for the entire week. Hopefully, he was able to take a break from refining pills for a while. Sonny, when do you think the students are going to return from selling the pills? Shouldn't they be here by now? It's almost getting dark. I'm a bit concerned. The happiness on Sunny's face left as she looked through her window. You were right. That is weird. They never take that long. Her eyes were fixated on a spot in the distant sky. A few clouds were floating on it. The light of the setting sun caused them to glow in a reddish light. Just as Sunny said this, the door was opened. Sunny, Xavier, Layla, and Hao immediately turned their heads to see who was there. It was Taro. He was sweating and panting as if he had run here. There was panic on his face. He tried to catch his breath. Taro, what happened? Xavier could tell that something was wrong. His throat felt dry. Taro stamped his hands into his ribs. He kept panting as he tried to answer. The people we have sent to gather ingredients, they all returned without any ingredients. They said they couldn't get any. Xavier nodded. His eyes turned dark. As expected, the doctors bought all of the ingredients up. I didn't think they would react so quickly, but I can't say I'm surprised. It's even worse than that, Taro continued to talk. A look of fury flashed over his face. The people we've sent out to sell their pills were blocked off by some other students. Our people tried their best to resist. They were all pretty tough, but in the end, they couldn't hold their ground. They got beaten up pretty badly. I think their stalls were destroyed too. Layla gnashed her teeth. These arrogant doctors think they can force us out of business? We'll make them pay to insult us like this. Taro shook his head. It wasn't the doctors who destroyed our stalls and attacked our members. It was the White Gang. Hearing the words White Gang made Xavier straighten up. The White Gang? Are you sure? We have a truce. They're not supposed to attack us for 6 months. Don't tell me they just forgot about this. Xavier, what should we do? We need to react before they start to kick us around even more. Xavier's expression was solemn as he was thinking of a way to deal with the situation. Everyone in the hall was staring at him. He could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, weighing him down. He was not sure if he would ever get used to being a leader. Eventually, he broke the tense silence by waving his hand and telling Taro and the others how to proceed. Taro, gather everyone. We'll look for the headquarters of the White Gang and confront them for their actions. If they want to beat us up, we'll fight back. Taro nodded. Understood. I'll gather them immediately. Taro did as he was told and marched out of the hall to gather everyone. Meanwhile, Xavier, Sunny, Hao, and Layla exchanged some worried and angry looks. Xavier, do you really plan to fight the White Gang right now? I'm not sure if this is a good idea. We were hoping we could keep training for 6 months to be stronger once we face them. Right now, I don't think we're strong enough to deal with their entire gang. Sunny knitted her brows. She was clearly unhappy about this sudden change of plans. I know it's bad, but it's the only thing we can do. And I know we had a truce, but seeing how the White Gang broke this truce, it's only natural that we will have to react accordingly. Now that the White Gang attacked our men, the truce is officially over, Xavier declared. Hao stretched his fingers. The joints in them made some noise. On his face was a grin. Finally. I got sick and tired of selling pills and worrying about finances. I'm a warrior, not a salesman. Let's kick some ass and show them that they can't bully us. Layla and Hao cheered. Sunny was a bit concerned. She looked helplessly toward Xavier. Do you think this is a good idea? No, but it's the only thing we can do. Hao is right. We need to show them that they can't bully us. If we sit around and ignore their attacks, they'll attack us more often and more ruthlessly. Our members are also going to be unhappy. They expect us to act. They rely on our protection. And without a fight, you can't protect anyone. Xavier looked grim. The White Gang has really gone too far this time. Not long after their conversation, every member of the Steelgate faction was gathered on the large road near Xavier's living quarters. The atmosphere was tense. People cursed the White Gang and gnashed their teeth. Bloodlust was in their eyes. They wanted to teach the White Gang a lesson for attacking their friends. Xavier, Sunny, Hao, and Layla took the lead once they arrived. Are you all ready to teach the White Gang a lesson? Xavier took the loud cheering as a yes and continued. All right, good. Let's show them how strong we are. Don't hold back. With this, he turned around and marched ahead, leading the way. Sunny, Hao, and Layla stayed close behind him. They all had their guard up in case anyone from the White Gang would ambush them. They needed to be prepared for anything. As Xavier and his faction walked along the street, they passed countless people. Many of them grew curious about what was going on. They started to talk to each other. Man, they look pissed. Who are they mad at? That must be the Steelgate faction. I recognize the badges on their chests. I heard some rumors about them being in conflict with the White Gang. The White Gang? Where did you hear that? Earlier I saw some people from the Steelgate faction scouting the area, asking where the headquarters of the White Gang is. They must be headed there. I also heard from my friend Lang that there was some fight today where the White Gang destroyed the stalls of the Steelgate faction where they were selling medicine. Oh, that sounds like this is going to get exciting. The people who heard what was going on immediately grew curious. Some decided to follow the Steelgate faction so they could watch the show that was about to happen. The inner circle had become a lot noisier. In a short span of time, everyone in the inner circle was talking about what was going to happen. More and more people swarmed toward Xavier and his group. It did not take Xavier and his group too long to arrive at the living quarters of the White Gang. It was in the house that their leaders were living in. At the same time, a door to a large hall was bust open. The people inside the room stopped chatting and laughing. They all turned toward the young man who stood in the doorframe. There's bad news, Chief. A few people were gathered in a large hall. The blinds in front of the window were closed so that no one could look inside. The people inside the hall were all dressed in white. They all turned to the young man who just threw the door open and stormed into the hall. Cold sweat ran down his forehead. The people in the hall grew concerned. In the chair of the leader was a young, strong man dressed in white. It was Bai Fang. In front of him was a wooden table. On the table were many fire crystal cards spread out. Bai Fang was counting the amount of fire energy they obtained from the doctors. Yesterday, the leader of the doctors offered Bai Fang and his group a large amount of fire energy to stir trouble with the Steelgate faction. The sum was large enough for Bai Fang to ignore the truce he had with Xavier and his faction. After all, he needed to get more fire energy. He desperately needed to get a more powerful D technique, and all the D techniques that were available in the inner circle cost a fortune. This was why Bai Fang immediately agreed to the offer the doctors made him. There was not a second of hesitation. While some people of his faction were unhappy about Bai Fang picking a fight despite the agreement they made with Xavier, Bai Fang was not overly bothered. He always hated Xavier and his faction. Bai Fang was glad to finally have an excuse to end their truce. He glared at the man who stormed inside the hall. What is it? Xavier is leading his Steelgate faction to our headquarters. They plan an attack. The young man had panic written all over his face. He panted heavily. Bai Fang rolled his eyes. A moment later, he stood up and stretched himself. I did not expect him to be so bold. However, I don't care if Xavier and his bunch of useless, arrogant new students think they can fight us. They are asking for a beating at this point. Tell everyone to remain calm. This Steelgate faction stands no chance against us. They don't even have a battle spirit amongst their ranks. All they have are some true masters and some she-masters. As Bai Fang said this, the other people at the table laughed. A bunch of true masters under the lead of some she-masters attacking a gang that had several battle spirits was unheard of. Most people would think it would be suicide, although the rank of a battle spirit was the one directly after the one of a she-master. Their strength was worlds apart. Under normal circumstances, a she-master would have no chance against a battle spirit. However, Xavier had a lot of tricks up his sleeve, so these normal circumstances were not something that concerned him. This was something that Bai Fang was fully aware of. He was no fool. He knew he had to be cautious when facing Xavier. The only thing we need to be careful about is this rumored special attack of his. The rest of his faction won't be a problem for us. I did hear that with his strength, Xavier can only use the special attack once. As long as we can endure it once, we should be safe. Gather the others and tell them to get ready for the attack. We will make sure they'll remember their place. The people in the room cheered in unison and marched outside. Bai Fang followed them. On his face was a mocking grin. What a bunch of idiots. I can't wait to beat some sense into them. Without wasting more time, Bai Fang followed his gang outside. Not too far from the headquarters of the White Gang was a spacious open ground. The main road led to this open space. Many people gathered around this ground. They could tell that if the Steelgate faction and the White Gang were about to fight, they would do so here. It was the perfect place for two large groups to have a battle. The people surrounding the place were whispering and murmuring. How do you think this is going to end? I'm not really sure. Someone in the open space asked the man next to him. The man next to him laughed. Don't you think it's obvious? The White Gang is going to beat the Steelgate faction into a bloody pulp. I even took a bet that Bai Fang and the White Gang were going to win this fight. I've known Bai Fang for years. He and his gang have no mercy. A woman next to him laughed. Are you really that dumb? Haven't you heard what Xavier did in the Q training tower? Or during the fire energy hunting competition? Of course I've heard about it. Everyone was talking about it for weeks. I think Xavier just got lucky. When he fought back during the fire energy hunting competition, the older students were caught off guard. Never before did the new students fight back, so the older ones did not expect to meet resistance. If it weren't for that, then Xavier would have had no chance with his group. I think Xavier's lucky streak is about to come to an end, replied the man. I would not be so sure about this. You think Xavier almost killing Shiro and later Lai was also just because he got lucky? Doesn't sound like it to me. Though I guess Shiro and Lai would be happy if everyone thinks that Xavier just got lucky. They would not want to admit that this new student is a threat to them, added the woman. More and more people began to argue about who would win. Some even took bets. Those who knew Bai Fang betted on him. However, those who have seen Xavier fight against Shiro or Lai bet on him. Shortly after, the two groups appeared. On one side was the Steelgate faction, led by Xavier, and on the other was the White Gang. While Xavier's group did not contain as many powerful members as the White Gang, they clearly outnumbered them. The Steelgate faction had at least 50 people with them. A handful of their members had to stay behind in their living quarters to keep everything in check and make sure no one was going to break in while they were fighting the White Gang. Meanwhile, the White Gang had about 30 people. However, it was impossible to not notice how much more powerful the Q energy around the White Gang was when compared to the Steelgate faction. Bai Fang took a step forward and crossed his arms in front of his chest. Xavier, you finally show up in front of our house. You really have guts, I'll give you that. But do you think you stand a chance against our gang? If yes, then you're even dumber than I thought. The members of the White Gang behind him laughed. Xavier also took a step forward. Bai Fang, I and my faction never provoked you. We had a truce, remember? However, instead of being true to your word and respecting this truce, you attacked us openly at the market. If you're not capable of being true to your word, don't be surprised if we'll make you pay for it. Bai Fang rolled his eyes dramatically. So, do you think I give a shit about all of this? Groups in the inner circle fight all the time. You'd have to be a real idiot to expect anyone to give a shit about some truce. I also don't remember signing anything about a truce. I said we won't attack for 6 months, but people can change their minds, or not. Don't tell me you never changed your mind on something when a better offer comes along. All of Bai Fang's teeth became visible as he grinned. Xavier's expression did not change. There was no sign of fear on his face. His cold eyes glared through Bai Fang. I guess I've overestimated you, Bai Fang. I really thought you would be true to your word, despite your awful character. Maybe you're right, and I'm an idiot. I really have to be an idiot for not seeing that you're nothing more than a lying asshole that leads some third-grade gang that does not care about integrity or honesty. Bai Fang's grin dropped. His face became much uglier as he heard some of the bystanders chuckle at Xavier's words. You think you're so clever, Xavier, don't you? But let's cut to the chase. It's pointless to keep arguing. All right then, let's get this over with. Xavier unsheathed his broadsword ruler. His Q energy surged. The light reflected on its black surface. Xavier stretched himself and twisted his neck. His heart began to race as anger flooded his body. Just as he was about to take another step toward Bai Fang, a sudden shadow flashed through the air and landed next to Xavier. Xavier was startled. He sheathed the broadsword ruler to his back. You, what are you doing here? What do you think I'm doing here, Xavier? I'm going to help you to get rid of this trash. The person replied. The bystanders gasped. Some of the people of the White Gang also took a step back. They began to murmur and whisper. Even Bai Fang could not hide his surprise. You, what are you doing here? This is a private matter between the White Gang and the Steelgate faction. You have no right to interfere. Bai Fang looked furious. He knew that the person who had just appeared was much more powerful than him. Everyone knew that this person was someone who was constantly in the top 50 ranking. No one wanted to mess with them. If this person would help Xavier and his faction, the Steelgate faction's chance to win this battle would increase drastically. Bai Fang gnashed his teeth as a new person suddenly appeared next to Xavier. No one expected this person to interfere in this fight. The bystanders were confused and began to whisper. What is he doing here? That's weird. It looks as if he wants to help Xavier. Why would he do that? People were at a loss. Bai Fang was at a loss as well. He knew the man that just showed up too well. Xavier was amused, but also a bit surprised. He turned to the man who appeared next to him. Jan, what are you doing here? Xavier asked again. I told you I owe you, didn't I? And I'm not some lying bastard like Bai Fang. As Jan spat out these last words, he raised his voice and made sure to look at Bai Fang's face. Despite the insult, Bai Fang did not flinch. He knew he could not afford to make Jan angry. All Bai Fang could do was swallow down his frustration and curse Jan silently. Jan, what the hell are you talking about? Jan turned around so that his body was facing Bai Fang. Weren't you listening, you idiot? I said I owe Xavier a favor. Are you too dumb to understand what this means? It means I'm going to kick your ass with my fire axe. Jan waved his hand, and a giant red axe appeared. It was glowing as if it was made of literal fire. He waved the axe, and it cut through the air, leaving behind a red glowing trail where it went. Bai Fang involuntarily took a step back. While his blood was boiling, he knew he did not stand a chance. Within seconds, the tables had turned. Instead of facing Jan, Bai Fang turned to look at Xavier. You were a fucking coward. All you do is hide behind people. The last time it was you who showed up to defend you. Now it's Jan. Who are you going to invite the next time? Your mum? It was Jan who answered before Xavier had the chance. You're one to talk, Bai Fang. Are you in any position to insult him? If anyone is a fucking coward, it's you. How long have you been a student in the inner circle? All these years of experience, and yet you're picking a fight with the new students. If you have any backbone left, you would pick a fight with someone who is in your league. Why don't you challenge the Wolffangs again? Didn't you have some business with them the last time? I'm sure their leader would love to have a chat with you. Also, did your White Gang and the Steelgate faction have an agreement, or not? If you don't want to be remembered as a lying asshole whose words don't mean anything, you better cut it out and get lost. Bai Fang's face turned green as Jan kept hurling insult after insult at him. The rest of the White Gang was also shocked. That fucking lunatic! What should we do? We can't fight the crazy axe guy. He's insane. They looked at their leader to wait for his orders. Meanwhile, Xavier had to try his hardest to keep a serious face and not burst into laughter. Man, he is not holding back. This is amazing. Jan might be crazy, but he's really starting to grow on me. At least I can trust him. He won't bother to make promises that he can't keep, or lie to my face. I can respect that. The bystanders also could not help but chuckle. Crazy Axe Jan really has no mercy. Suddenly, another group appeared on the open ground. All of them wore alchemist robes. Xavier figured they must have been the so-called doctors, the faction that consisted of alchemists. As the bystanders saw the group, they gasped. The doctors? What are they doing here? Even their leader Xin showed up. Bai Fang's tense body relaxed a little as he saw the doctors approach. All of them were highly respected within the inner circle. Many of them were often in the top 50 ranking. With their help, the White Gang might even stand a chance against Jan. Their leader immediately stared at Xavier. So you are that alchemist that is trying to get rid of us. I'm glad we finally have the chance to chat. It's not Xavier's fault that he can make better medicine than whatever you and those other useless wannabe alchemists can refine. Jan let out a snort. Xin ignored the remark and walked closer to Xavier. Xavier straightened up. So you must be Xin, the leader of the doctors. It looks like you're the one who hired the White Gang to cause problems for my faction, or am I wrong? Xin did not confirm or deny Xavier's question. His eye twitched slightly. What did your faction think would come of this? I understand that all of you are new here, so I will give you some advice. During the first year in the inner circle, you should play by the rules and not pick fights that you can't win. Otherwise, you will get yourself hurt. Understood? Xavier did not hold back his laughter. Are you trying to scare me? I'm going to tell you right now that it's not going to work. You're just wasting your time. I'll keep refining pills and selling them. If this will destroy your business, maybe you can get back into business once you learn how to refine some actual medicine. However, I'm not really in the mood to keep beating up everyone I meet. How about an offer? Xin was surprised to hear this. He did not expect Xavier to try and negotiate. What sort of offer are you talking about? Since we're both alchemists, I think it would be bad for both of us to just fight and beat each other up. That would just be too easy, don't you think? How about we use a different way of competing? We're both going to refine some pills. The alchemist who refines the best pill wins. If I lose, me and the Steelgate faction will stop selling pills. If you lose, I want you to stop bothering me and my faction while we're selling pills. How does that sound? You want to have an alchemy competition against me? Xin was startled. Never before did he meet an alchemist who was daring enough to challenge him. Since Xin was a level 4 alchemist, he was not only one of the best alchemists within the inner circle, but also in the outside world. No one would look down on a level 4 alchemist. Why? Is that a bad offer? If you want to have a fight where we get to beat each other up instead, I'm fine with that. Though Bai Fang says I'm a coward, I don't think that's the case, Xavier said with a smile. Xin thought about it for a second. Although he was on the level of a battle spirit, Xin did hear about the special attack that Xavier had used. Since Xin was also an alchemist, he had a feeling the attack that Xavier used was created with some powerful flame. Of course, Xin did not expect this powerful flame to be a heavenly flame. Heavenly flames were extremely rare, and no alchemist would assume that a young man like Xavier would be in possession of one. Still, he knew that powerful flames were something that he needed to be cautious about, no matter what origin it had. Xin kept thinking. His mind was racing. Xavier's Q-Energy Recovery Pill, Restoration Pill, and Anti-Fire Poison Pills are quite high in quality. I should not underestimate his skill, but if he would give me the formula for those pills, I'm sure I could refine them at a much higher quality. This gives me an idea. Xavier laughed as he saw how Xin froze. What? Is this a yes or a no? Look, if you're too scared to have an alchemy competition and would prefer to fight instead, that's fine by me. Xin shook his head. No, I'm not scared. I just think the stakes are too low. How about this? We have this alchemy competition, but if you lose, not only will you and your faction stop selling their pills, but you will also give me the formulas for the 3 pills you sell. If I lose, your faction can keep selling their pills without us interfering, and I will hand you 5 of our stalls in some of the best-selling spots in the inner circle. There's a lot more traffic than anywhere else. Our faction spent 800 days worth of fire energy to get these 5 spots. The bystanders gasped. Xavier was also intrigued. That does sound like a good deal. Xavier thought for a moment. Layla took a step toward him. Xavier, be careful. For all we know, he could be making this up. Maybe their stalls are worth nothing. We can't prove that these stalls are actually worth 800 days of fire energy. Xavier rubbed his chin and then subtly shook his head. I don't think so, Layla. Alchemy formulas are worth a lot. Zin knows that if he does not offer something that is good, I wouldn't agree. Additionally, he clearly takes great pride in being an alchemist. I expect him to be a lot more trustworthy than Bai Fang. I also think that Zin underestimates me, so he does not expect to lose an alchemy competition against me. Did you see how shocked he looked as I challenged him? He does not think anyone would dare to challenge someone like him. Being an alchemist clearly got to his head. He thinks he's untouchable. So you're going to accept his terms, Xavier? I'm not sure that's a good idea. If we lose, we'll be forced to stop selling pills. Getting fire energy without selling pills is going to be very hard. Layla clearly had her doubts. Suddenly, Hao interrupted. Xavier, I think you should agree. Layla has a good point when she says it will be hard to get fire energy without selling pills, but it won't be impossible. We already gained a lot of fire energy, so even if you lose, we'll be fine until we win some challenges in the fighting arena. Xavier bit his lips. He turned toward Sunny, who was on his right side. What do you think, Sunny? I would love to hear your opinion as well. Sunny looked at Xavier with a bright smile. Layla and Hao both have good points, but I believe in you. I'm sure you could defeat him in an alchemy competition. In the end, it's up to you. But no matter what you decide to do, I will support your decision. Xavier, what are you discussing over there? Are you going to accept my terms? Yes or no? I don't have all day. Zin grew impatient. Xavier sighed. All right, fine. If I don't agree with your terms, even more people will think I'm a coward. I agree to your terms. Let's have an alchemy competition. Zin clapped his hands. Fantastic. We will both start at the same time and follow the same formula. Then we will see whose pill has the better quality. The pill with the better quality wins. And whose formula are we going to use? If we use yours, then you have an advantage. At the same time, if we would use mine, I would have an advantage. Xavier pointed out. Zin nodded and thought for a moment. Eventually, he had an idea. I ran into Elder Lee earlier. He is an elder who is in charge of the formulas at the alchemist department. We can ask him to borrow a formula. While we're at it, we can also ask him to serve as a judge for our competition. Xavier huffed. You suggest someone you know to be a judge? How can I be sure you're not bribing him to win this? Zin let out a loud laugh. You think I can bribe any elders in the inner circle? Wow, you're really underestimating the elders. No one could bribe them, not even an alchemist. To Xavier's surprise, Jan, who was still close to Xavier, spoke up and agreed with Zin. It is true what he says. It's impossible to bribe the elders, especially Elder Lee. He hates lies and fraud. I've met him before. All right, if you say so, I'll take your word for it, Jan. We should go and find this elder and negotiate all the conditions. How about we compete at the Northern Arena tomorrow, Zin? Sounds great. I'm looking forward to getting your 3 formulas. Zin had a wide grin on his face. He was confident that he would win this competition. Xavier was also pretty confident, so he did not mind. And I look forward to your stalls. Oh, and Bai Fang, this is not over. My Steelgate faction will remember what you did today. We will get back to you once all of this is over. Xavier threw a cold glare toward Bai Fang. Bai Fang shrugged his shoulders. I did not expect anything else. I'll beat some sense into you once you show up again. Xavier did not care for Bai Fang's threat. He knew there was no way around facing him eventually. Without bothering to reply, he followed Zin and his group to find Elder Lee. Xavier and Zin went to the office in which Elder Lee was working. As they entered, he was bent over a bunch of documents that spread all over a wooden table. Deep wrinkles were on his face, and his watery eyes were behind square glasses. His white beard was so long that it reached the table he was sitting on. The door opened, and the elder looked up from his documents. Yes? Elder Lee, I'm sorry for interrupting you while you're working, but I need to ask you for a favor. Zin entered first, and Xavier was close behind. Zin took a polite bow, and Xavier did the same. The elder did not look happy about the two students appearing while he was busy. A favor? It is very bold of a student to ask an elder for a favor. Is it important? Zin nodded. Very important. I'm sure you will be interested as well, Elder Lee. You see, there has been some tension between my faction and Xavier's Steelgate faction. We decided to settle things once and for all with an alchemy competition. The winner gets rewarded, and the loser has to stop selling pills in the inner circle. Elder Lee raised an eyebrow and straightened up. He did look as if he was intrigued. I see. That does sound interesting. Physical fights happen every day in the inner circle, but alchemy competitions are rare. It is a shame, really. Personally, I find alchemy competitions a lot more exciting than physical fights, but to each their own. And what do you need my help for? We wanted to ask if it would be possible for you to give us a formula. Since we want the competition to be as fair as possible, it would be for the best if we could refine a pill that we both are unfamiliar with. That way, no one has an advantage. Xavier and I were also hoping that you would be kind enough to be the judge during the competition. Everyone knows you are fair and would not favor one over the other. As Zin spoke, a few more wrinkles formed on the old man's face, alongside a smile. I can't say no to that, can I? Very well, I will pick a formula and be the judge during the alchemy competition. Where and when do you plan this competition? Xavier answered the elder's question and took a step forward. We were hoping to have the competition tomorrow in the Northern Arena. Elder Lee hummed silently as he thought for a minute. He took his glasses off to clean them before he replied. Very well, I can see this working out. All right, I will help you with the competition. I'm excited for a bit of a change to all the other fights that happen every day. Xavier and Zin were excited to hear this. They thanked Elder Lee, agreed on a time to meet in the Northern Arena, and went back to their own living quarters. Once Xavier arrived, he immediately met up with Sunny, Hao, and Layla in their hall. He told them everything that happened. To Xavier's surprise, Jan was also present. Sunny was a bit worried. While Xavier was gone, Layla brought up her concerns again, and Sunny had to admit that Layla had a good reason to be concerned. Xavier, this Zin is a pretty good alchemist from everything I've heard. He's also very confident. You should not underestimate him. If you would lose, then... Sunny could not finish the sentence. She and the others got used to having an alchemist amongst their ranks. It made life much easier for the Steelgate faction. Without the fire energy that they got from selling the pills, they would have to go back to obtain the fire energy in different ways. No one wanted to do this. It was difficult to compete against any of the students in the fighting arena, and doing everyday tasks did not pay much fire energy. Jan snorted. He reached for a cup of steaming tea on the table and took a sip before brushing Sunny's concerns off. Zin is a level 4 alchemist. It would be surprising if he would not be an arrogant asshole. That's how all alchemists are due to their profession. No offense, Xavier. Xavier laughed and shrugged his shoulders. He got used to Jan's attitude. No worries. I'm glad that I can be sure that you're honest. The last few days, I only run into liars. At first, it was May who lied to me about the training room she wanted. Then, it was Lai, who tried to back her lies up. And now Bai Fang, who broke our truce. People like that really piss me off. Jan nodded. It's no surprise. In the inner circle, everyone is a fighter. Everyone has a kill or be killed mentality. It's not healthy, but it's important if you want to survive. He took another sip of his tea. How do you think your chances of winning are, Xavier? Think you can defeat a level 4 alchemist? Xavier smiled. A mischievous spark was in his eyes. You think I would have offered a competition if I didn't believe that I would win? What do you take me for? Jan grinned. I figured that you must think that way. Anyway, I hope you know what you're doing. It would be really embarrassing if you would lose. Hao, Layla, and Sunny exchanged a few concerned looks. They were also hoping that Xavier knew what he was doing. While Sunny felt bad about doubting Xavier's ability, she knew that Zin was a powerful alchemist. The more she heard about him, the more she worried. All the worrying caused her to hardly get any sleep. Sunny was rolling around in her bed all night. As the first sunbeams hit her window, she felt more tired than when she went to bed. Meanwhile, Xavier and the others were excited. as she ran into them having breakfast.
Low battery, please charge.
Competition. And you have really no idea what pill you have to refine? Man, that must be nerve-wracking, Hal said with a laugh, and shoved some food into his mouth. Xavier nodded, but did not look as if he was concerned. I know it sounds crazy, but at least that means Zinn also has no idea what we need to refine. I'm really looking forward to it. Maybe it will be a formula that can be convenient later. An alchemist can never have too many formulas. Hal sighed. Yeah, I can imagine. How do you even memorize all of that? It must be an insane amount of stuff that you need to keep in mind when refining pills. Oh, it's not too bad. Once you know what every ingredient is needed for, you can also combine things, and it'll make sense. Additionally, having an alchemy master can help. Xavier also took a bite to eat. He did not want to have the alchemy competition with an empty stomach. Speaking of which, we've never seen your alchemy master. If every alchemist has a master, then you should also have one, right? What is he up to? Does he or she know what you're up to? Hal questioned. As Xavier heard this, he almost choked on his food. He had to cough a few times and drink some water before he could answer Hal's question. Sorry, that caught me off guard. Yeah, I do have a master, but he's very reclusive and lives hidden. He does not want to be bothered by people. I don't think he would be happy if I would talk too much about him, so... I understand. You alchemists are weird. Hal laughed and continued to eat his food. Meanwhile, Sonny walked up to Xavier and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Are you ready to face Zinn? Sure, I got some rest, ate some food, and trained a bit last night. It should be fine. I'm in top form. Xavier turned his head to look at Sonny and give her a reassuring smile. As he saw the rings around Sonny's eyes, his smile dropped. Sonny, are you all right? I know you're worried, but I'm sure it'll be fine. You know I can handle anything. Sonny forced a smile and nodded. Before she could reply, Taro stormed into the hall. Guys, you need to see this. Xavier furrowed his brows. Can this wait until we're done with breakfast? Taro rolled his eyes. I guess, but you really want to see this. Trust me, it's wild. Xavier nodded. He devoured the last few bites of the breakfast, whipped a few crumbs off his face, and stood up to follow Taro. Sonny, Layla, and Hal followed close behind. They had no idea what Taro wanted to show them. Taro led the way outside of the hall, through the corridor, and outside of the building. As they saw the street that was close to their living quarters, their jaws dropped.